Hello, welcome back. How is everybody doing today? Today we're going to have a look at the European Senior Chess Championships. We're going to have a look at the England team, right? And how are they doing today? So we'll start on, is Board Ems, John Ems, is he on board? I'm not sure what the board order is for England actually. What is the board order? Maybe somebody could tell me. But anyway, John Ems is black against Martin MRVA. That's a Slovenian guy. Was it Slovakia? I'm not sure what that flag is. By the way, Slovakia got a bad kind of go of it in this film Hostel. Has anyone ever seen that film Hostel? Horror movie called Hostel. And very good film by Eli Roth. So it's basically these two American students, and on a trip to Amsterdam, and they meet this guy called Ollie, maybe Ollie, and he's sort of like quite friendly, and he says, "Why don't you come along to this?" I think they're all together. And then there's this other guy who's obviously affiliated with this dodgy place, who says, "Oh, I know about this hostel. You could go there. There's beautiful girls, all this blah blah blah." So it's in Slovakia, so they have to take a train to Slovakia, and it all goes from there. But yeah, I've seen that guy a few times. I think he maybe lost to Adams in one of these recent events. Might have actually been the individual. So obviously the senior team, I'm approaching that kind of age where I could potentially play in the seniors. I'm 48. I turned 48 the other day. It was May the 4th, Star Wars Day. That's my birthday. I was born on May the 4th, 1976. So I'm now 48 years of age. And yeah, you get older, don't you? Unfortunately, that's what life's about. If you don't die, you get older. That's the basic rule of life. You either die or you get older. And there's no way around it, unfortunately. I'd rather stay young forever, but I don't know. Does anyone else feel the same way that I do? That they're worried about getting older? I'm very worried about getting older. I don't want to get older. I don't want to be like 50 or 60 or 70, right? The whole idea of seniors chess terrifies me. Anyway, I'm babbling a bit. Right, let's have a look at the game. John Ems, by the way, he's one of the nicest people in chess. He's a genuinely lovely guy. So it's not surprising they made him the team captain. Black played him with Bishop A7. Yeah, John's a hard worker and he knows a lot of theory. So he will know that Bishop A7, he's a good player, John. I've known him for over 20 years. I remember playing him in Blitz, in Grange Park, in Beckenham. Grove Park, sorry. It was Alexis Herakis and John Naylor were sharing a flat. And occasionally, I think I did a bit of coaching for John at school in Beckenham. In Bromley, sorry. Not Beckenham, actually. It was in Bromley. The school was in Bromley. And so go over there. I think got a bus over there. So I live in Manolay, which is in Lewisham. And then afterwards, I think we went back to John Naylor and Alexis Herakis' flat. We ended up I played some blitz against John. I think he crushed me from what I remember. He was very strong. What was I going to say? Can't remember what I was going to say. Anyway, yeah. That's the story. But, yeah, so knight b8. I was going to say, I think I did win one game anyway, at least. But knight b8 was a strong move. Yeah, again, like knowledge of systems. I don't think I'd play knight b8 now. I wouldn't know what to play here as black. Obviously knows the system. This is very popular. So when white goes bishop c4, this is what they've all been playing lately. So they worked out that in the Rally Pairs, the Berlin was very hard to crack. So they decided to start playing this stuff again as white at the highest level. And knight f1 is often also played to basically bring the knight round to ideal square. So the first move I'm looking at, so let's calculate a variation. So maybe knight g3 is a move. After knight g3, you could play h6 though, hitting the knight. The one thing I say about John, he's very well prepared and he's quite thorough and almost, in a way, two-dimensional with his opening preparation. In a way, he's very straightforward. You know, he's a knight, which is a good thing. You know, like that's one of the things I realised when I played him in Torquay a few years ago. That'd have been 2022, baby, a couple of years ago. And I lost in a very short period of time, like 11 moves. It's a horrible game from my perspective. But he didn't try to overthink it. You know, he saw that I played a suspect variation, probably was looking at my games online as well. And basically he said, right, yeah, I'm going to prepare this, and this is strong, and, you know, hopefully it'll go down it, and that's what I did. So rather than overthinking it and, you know, expecting me, because I played something bad before, because someone's played something bad before, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to change, is the whole point of what I was trying to say. But yeah, knight g3 can be met with h6. So interesting position. Let's come back to that game. We'll move on to Glenn Fleer game. Glenn Fleer is white in this game, so what was he opening? I'm not sure the ages of these guys. I think John Evans is like early 50s, right? I think Glenn Fleer might be, he must be in his 60s by now, yeah. I'm not sure how old John Evans is. I know he's older than me, obviously, but maybe he's mid-50s by now. I'll lose track of, you know, everything, to be honest. Similar age to Mickey, I would say. Probably similar era to Mickey. So, yeah, maybe slightly older than Mickey, maybe. I'm not sure. F4. Yeah, King A1, good move. Knight FD7. Let's say, yeah, if there's anyone you wanted to hire as your openings coach, it'd probably be John Ems. If there's somebody you wanted to hire as your endgame coach, like Glenn Fleer, well, Keith Arkle's also in the team, would also be up there. Like, Glenn knows a lot of technical endings from what I've seen. I remember watching, when I was younger, I used to play for Kent. And there was one county match, which I believe was played in, like, Solihull, actually. It was a county final between Kent and it would have been, who did Glenn Fleer play for? Maybe Warwickshire. Not sure what neck of the woods Glenn was from, because he moved to France, right? But Warwickshire would often get to the final. So I remember he beat Chris Ward. I remember watching the post-mortem afterwards. I was amazed by like how much Glenn was seen. Yeah, how impressive he was in the post-mortem. I was just sort of like overlooking it. Because I don't think I was on board. Well, obviously, like people like Chris Ward were a lot stronger than me at that point. But I was just sort of like admiring how much he was seen. But Glenn was actually very well known for winning his GLC tournament. It was a kind of an upset win. It'd be like the equivalent of me winning like a Greg K Open or something now. I don't know what the equivalent would be because although it was a very strong tournament, Kasparov and Karpov probably weren't playing, right? But I think people like Kornstoiber played, Polagaevsky maybe. I don't know actually. I just know there were lots of big names in there. Spielberg, John Dard, like obviously a lot of the top English guys. Maybe Nigel Short was played. At that period, this would have been early 80s. And then it was probably pre-Lloyds Bank, or Lloyds Bank hadn't really taken off by that point. And Glenn Fleer got married to Christine. That same, obviously, they ended up moving to France. That's where Christine's from. That same week, so he was kind of inspired by that experience. And he had an amazing tournament. I think he came in as a late minute replacement. That was the story. But in this position, after F5, yeah, so white's piece, down means regain a piece. So how did we get that sequence? So white decided to sack a piece and go F5. So let's calculate variation. Rook C8, FE, E4, maybe Queen D6. Okay, yeah, what kind of moves does black have? There's also Queen G5. Queen g5 you just take. I feel like black's okay here, but nothing more than that. I think it's probably about equal, right? I mean, what does the engine say? We could cheat. And it does actually say that black's worse. Oh, it says the best move is knight e5. Wow. He's never going to find knight e5, right? I mean, I don't even consider that move. But then again, the guy's a good player, so and obviously he's thinking about the game with probably a more. When it's your game, you're obviously thinking about the position a bit more than. Well, the idea is if you take, then they go back to c8, and then this is weak. So okay, let's say I went queen g5, right? I could take. Knight a4 is a move, for example. Glenn's actually been a problem player for me over the years. I don't think I've ever beaten him in a proper game. I did beat him in a Hastings on Nine tournament, but I'm not sure if I've ever beaten him in a proper game. Whereas I have lost some games to him. Maybe only one though. I can't remember if I've lost. I definitely lost one at Hastings where I played the Benko, which wasn't really my cup of tea. Okay, well, we'll come back to that game as well. So then you've got Nigel Davis. He's playing black. He seems to have quite a decent position, actually. He's played against the C3 Sicilian. And Nigel did spend some time playing for Wales. I believe he's got Welsh heritage, because hence the name Davis. Yeah, Nigel's a very easy person to get on with in real life. However, I have had a few fallings out of him online. He can be a little bit abrasive online, as can I. I was mentioning this earlier that so I often notice online there's random people who block me. There was one guy earlier, and I looked him up through another account. So I was logged into my Twitter, and I noticed that it was where it says you can't view this tweet because this account limits blah blah blah. So I looked this guy up through another account, and I thought I've never even had any interaction with this person. How come this person's blocking me? You know, you get these egotistical donkeys that I really can't stand. But Nigel's a nice guy. That's a different story, you know. Like, I've always got on fairly well with him when we met face to face. He's another guy, a little bit like Glenn. Glenn is very good technically, and I would say he's similar with Nigel. Is that he's he's kind of got a little bit of a quirky style in a way, a little bit like he's got a quirky sense of humour, like a little bit like a Sadler in a way, a Matthew Sadler, I would say, that he likes to go his own way in the opening. But he's also very well read. I mean, he's somebody who I would say prescribes to the whole theory about doing 10,000 hours to get good at chess. And he's been around for many years. I remember Mark Rustin saying that he used to play Nigel at Charlton House. It was also another chess club that I was when I grew up. That was my main chess club. That's really how I got strong at chess, was through my affiliation with Charlton. So Nigel, I would imagine he dates back, maybe not as far back as someone like Keith, but to a similar period to John Epps, sort of like 1980s, right? Like chess wise. So after knight c3, queen d6 is an excellent move, because you really want to put the rook on d8 if you can. Well, Kramnik won a game here. I've seen this game before. Well, how did Kramnik win this game? Where was it played? Doesn't say, does it? Oh, yeah, be interesting. Adams also won. So White has quite a nice record in this line. It's interesting to know that. Didn't like bishop d7 actually. So the best move here, rook d8. I didn't like knight e4 either. Maybe it's some kind of rapid play game. So best move was queen d2. Yeah, h5 and then White went on to win. Okay, that's interesting. But in the game that didn't happen, White In the Nigel game, they did go quick. He did go quick c2, so the guy knew what he was doing. This all seems fairly solid for both sides. So black plays bishop e8. Actually, was still in theory, and apparently the main move is to go queen e2. So you're stepping out this x-ray from the rook, so that makes some logical sense, right? Maybe you're now preparing knight e4. Still theory, and black goes h6. Amazing how much theory. I've never seen this position before in my life. Like with a bishop on e8. It does look very logical though, right? But still it carries on. You go bishop b1, bishop f8, there's loads of games. It's absolutely crazy how much theory there is these days. I think chess is dying, right? Then the main move is bishop c1. I can't make any sense of all these moves. Like bishop c1. Okay, bishop b1 is logical because that's often what you play in these kind of systems, because you want to attack. It's still loads of theory. Even like an old game between Rosenthalis, who's an expert on the c3 Sicilian, actually Podomari won in this line. Black played g6. What does the engine say is the best move? It says don't go g6. Maybe g6 people would go g6. Doesn't look like a bad move either, but in all the games g6 was played, but the engines say knight e7. That is a typical manoeuvre, a little bit like the John Ems manoeuvre, where you retreat the knight to kind of reroute it to better pastures. And the bishop would come out to c6. Okay, we're going to move on to the final game. So this is a game, I must be honest, this kind of structure really bores me to tears. When I saw a game the other day, it was very similar structure. I was playing next to it. It was Simon Ansell against Harry Lee in a 4CL. And that ended in a fairly quick draw. But I just found the whole game very, very boring. Just, you know, when you got like similar minor pieces, it's often quite drawish, I think. But, you know, it might not be. I mean, someone like Pragananda is a big expert in these kind of structures as well, right? So it's whose move is it? Stuart to move. You go 3b3, right? So we got here. I'll show you how the opening went. I don't know myself. Yeah, so same openings in the John Ems game. What they're all playing now. Yeah, bishop e3 was played. So the idea is you get a slight initiative. Even though your pawns are doubled, you've got the open f-file to attack now, which has some significance. So black goes bishop e6. Stuart took only went queen b3. Maybe still part of his prep, but he's only got 40 minutes left. Although Stuart is somebody who is known for getting into time trouble. He's a very strong player as well. He won the British Championships in 2008 when he was in Liverpool. So in 2008, Liverpool was a European city of culture. So they had the British Championships there, and they also had another big tournament like European, not the European Championships, but something similar sounding, right? European Union Championships they had, right? Not as illustrious as European Championships. It was still quite a strong tournament. I think Nigel Short won it, or was playing in it. And Stuart won the British that year. So that year, I think Gawain was top seed, but he lost to Keith in the final round. So Keith ended up in the playoff with Stuart. And Stuart won 1.5-1/2. But he would have been in his early 40s at the time. So he would have been... So now he'd been 16 years later, actually. So I think he was 40. So he'd be 56, basically. Yeah. Quite scary how the time goes, right? But yeah, Stuart's a good player, basically. So he would have been one of the oldest people to break through with the British Championships for the first time. I was saying this before, like, you know, I think there's advantages and drawbacks of being an older player. One of the advantages is you have a lot of experience. You know, I always feel like experience can be overrated. If you don't use that experience wisely, you know, experience is one thing, but if you don't use it wisely, it's not easy to use experience wisely. I don't think. I mean, I don't feel like I've been great at user experience compared to other players. But one of the drawbacks I would say is you probably build up psychological scar tissue. So, you know, that is one of the reasons why you've seen very few players break through and win the British Championship for the first time, you know, in their 40s, like Stuart did. And partly is because there's a reason why he haven't won it before. Like if Stuart had been 2700 like Mickey Adams, he would have won it before anyway. So he's sort of like on the borderline of winning the British, but not quite strong enough that he's easily going to win it. You know, so but as you get older, you build up that scar tissue. So fair play, won it in his 40s. I'm still waiting for British. I'm now 48. You know. Keith has not won a British. Mark Hebner's not won a British. We've all come very close over the years. John Emerson's never won a British. Glenn Fleur's never won a British. Nigel's never won a British. But Stuart has won a British. Right, because that's obviously a big tournament. He's also won a lot of other tournaments, I believe. And he was also director of... He's been over 2600. He's also director of the Gibraltar Chess Congress. And now he's moved to Hastings. He's got... I think he was born in London. But he's got sort of roots in Hastings, like family roots in Hastings. So now he's helping to organise and invite people to the Hastings Chess Congress. He does a very good job of it as well. But going back to this position, after Queen B3, Queen D7 could be played by Black. Yeah, well, that's what he played, kind of. So a natural move would be Knight D2. And I think if White was to go Knight D2, I'd be inclined not to castle queenside, because I would be afraid. So after, say, for example, Knight D2 castles A4, D5, B5, looks very dangerous for Black, right? Knight B8. And there's also after Knight B8 could take on E5. Knight E5, Queen D6, Knight F7. If you go Knight E5, Queen E8, then I'm pulled up. For example, I could take on D5. And if Rook D5, I go D4. And if you go Knight D5, I go Knight F7, Knight E3. Maybe Rook F3. Oh, there's Rook D3 there, right? Knight H8. Knight H8, Rook D2, Rook E3. Seems to be winning Rook up for White. You haven't got Queen G6 there because the Knight's on H8 covering. Anyway, got a bit far in the calculations. However, after Knight D2, we could just castle. So Knight D2 castles. What would White play then? Maybe Rook F2 actually, just slowly build up. Or Knight C4 or A4. The thing about Stuart, he's a very deep player, I would say. You know, he thinks about chess in a deep way. That's often why he gets into time trouble. Yeah, when I've struggled against Stuart over the years, and I think the reason is I've been quite a superficial player in some ways, and Stuart's sitting there working everything out. And also when he gets short of time, he's pretty good. Like, I've had got a bad record. I have beaten Stuart before. I beat him in the British Championships in Torquay. I lost him in the British Championships in Torquay as well, I think. I beat him in the Bind Sports, but that was a rapid. I lost to him in the tournament in Ireland. And I remember Luke McShane saying to me after the game, "God, you're weak," or something like that. It's quite funny. Funny moment. That might have been Bunratty actually. I think that was Bunratty. Final round of Bunratty. And it was a kind of a Bishop B5 Sicilian. And I lost him in a 4NCL game. Yeah, and that was in English, right? And he played a Rook C6 sack. So, but I remember analysing one game. It was a draw. Maybe at the British again. Played so many times at the British. I remember being very impressed with Stuart. Sometimes you analyse with people and you're like, not. You know, yeah, obviously any GM is obviously a good player, but there's certain GMs where you analyse with them and they stand out and you think, wow, they're really impressive, right? And I think Stuart was one that I thought, he just had very good feel for, and he wasn't like panicking. like a mini Mickey, right? Mini Mickey Adams in a post-mortem. But knight d2 is a good move. And maybe black could go b5. Just stop the knight getting there. And if a4, just castle. So I'd say at this moment, white has a slight advantage, but it's not enough to be significant. Now, why has white got a slight advantage? Actually, maybe white has no advantage. I think if white has a slight advantage, it's got slightly more space, slightly more active. Black is defensive, he's defending that pawn. Yeah, definitely not a big advantage, but it's a slight advantage. Yeah, so I'm right. Yeah, castles. I was wondering about b5. Not very actually, because the danger is you open the c-file. Okay, let's have a look at John M's game again. As we made in progress, white did go 93, so it's John M's to play. He's black in this game. I think this guy's actually a pretty good player, Martin Berver. You know what? I hate to say this. I'm going to make a prediction that John will lose this game because I think this guy's just also quite like White's position. I don't think John's in great form in this event, I'll be honest. I think he lost early on. And, yeah, just a gut feeling I have that he might even lose this game. Hope I'm wrong. But, no, John's a very good player, yeah. I played him, actually. The first time I played him was at Charlton Chess Congress. And I lost. But it got to quite. I remember thinking, "Oh, hang on, this game's closer than I was expecting." You know, I actually put him under pressure, and I think it was maybe even a C3 Sicilian. I was on the white side. I can't remember actually the opening I played, or maybe a Torre attack. I used to play that a lot. But I remember thinking, yeah, this is quite a close game. No, I don't think it was a Torre attack, but yeah, it might have been a C3 Sicilian or some kind of Sicilian. And mainly we had draws actually, but I think I did beat him in the Scarborough Congress years ago. Sorry, the British at Scarborough in a very nice game in 23 moves or something like that, and that got me a 4 out of 4. So I said in that tournament he was second seed behind Hodgson, but Hodgson was the guy who ended up winning, of course. Like around about that period, he was dominating the British. I think he won 2 Britishes on the trot. So he won the one in Scarborough, and then he won at Millfield, which would have been 2000. So the one in Scarborough was 1999, and then the one in Millfield was 2000, I believe. That's actually when I got my first GM door, because 2000 I did well at the British, and then I used the momentum from that to go on and get my first GM door. Yeah, I think that's the danger. When you're an older player, you spend a lot of time reminiscing about your past achievements, and actually motivating yourself to push yourself on to get new achievements is the difficult process. All these guys are good players, but some people hold their form better when they're older. Like Keith's a great example of that. He's somebody who's basically probably didn't achieve as much as he possibly should have done when he was younger, and therefore use that as a motivator to obviously get great results when he's older. You know, great player, great endgame player. But yeah, I mean, you know, Mark Hebden's another example. You know, somebody who could potentially would have been in this team, I think, and somebody who's still very driven, wants to compete with younger players, wants to like be a force. You know, not always easy to do when you're older. I feel the same way. You know, I feel like I want to compete with it. Yeah, I don't want to play something like the English Championships and just be an all-around and just making up the numbers. I want to go in there and have the best possible chance. That means working really hard. I come to realise is that I haven't been working hard enough over the last few years. So I've started to up my work ethic, try to do something every single day. So whose move is it? It's Glenn Fleer's move in this position. Okay, I think in chess positions. Actually, I've invented a calculation method called the. I just thought of it today. It's called the monkey the typewriter method. Although monkey you kind of associate with racist things, so I'm going to change it. It's like the gorilla and the typewriter method. I think that's less offensive. So gorilla and the typewriter. So the idea is with the whole concept is you got enough primates in a room, right? They're randomly tapping the keyboard. they're eventually going to write if you give them enough time, they're eventually going to write the whole entire works of Shakespeare. If you give them, you know, almost infinity or whatever. So it's the same theory with my calculation method. So you think of a random move. So rather than start with what you think is the best move, you start with a bad move. So I'm going to go, right, G3. Okay, the first move I calculate is move G3, which is probably like a nonsense move, doesn't do anything, right? But sometimes, sometimes by using your gorilla and the typewriter method, you could sometimes, you might even come across good moves. And secondly, right, you know, rather than start with the best move, you can only get worse. You start with a worse move, and then you can only get better. So it gives you a better feeling psychologically. So that's the theory behind my gorilla and the typewriter calculation method. I've got to come up with something, right? But okay, after F takes E6. Okay, that move I don't think works. So the problem is you take. Otherwise, it'd be a good idea. If I made the knight, I guess we could just go Rook C8, right? Not the only move, but we could play Rook C8. So I don't think Glenn's going to go E4. So what about A4? Is A4 a move? You can't play Queen A4. You got ED, Queen B4, right? Okay, this is a tricky puzzle. Okay, another move that I would consider is Bishop A6. But the more I think about it, I think like obviously the key to this position. So you try to think about position, yeah. You try to break a position down, and you think about it logically, right? Like the key to this position is the fact that the queen side is weak. I would say, like how. So then you think, right? How do I exploit that weakness? In a way, it reminds me of some of these old Bobby Fischer games. You got the light square bishop, so that could be a clue to how White might end up winning this game. If he can win this game, is the light square bishop is very powerful. Bishop B5 is a candidate move, definitely. Bishop A6 is also a move that I would consider. Bishop G6 less so. So I'm thinking Bishop A6. This is already quite a concrete position, and we're already quite deep into the middle game, but the other games are kind of like still in the opening, right? But this is already like, you know, become quite a critical position already. So Bishop A6 or Bishop B5, which one I choose? I'm kind of, I don't know, let's see what the engine says. It does like Bishop, so my Bishop B5, which I came up without the engine, I have to say. It likes my Bishop B5 and it thinks White is a lot better. Yeah, so hopefully Glenn will find Bishop B5. I think Black has not. Yeah, we said before that knight, if he had to find 95, that's a tough move to find. He didn't find it. I predicted he wouldn't find it. He didn't. So I think Glenn so far is doing a good job. Right, and then as these aren't the moves that were played, this is just analysis. So we've got this position, so it's Glenn to play. And we're saying, sorry, so he's taken on E4, E6, and now it's his move. And we might predict, what about Bishop A6? That also looks better for White, but not really creating any threats. Yeah, so both moves are strong. I think they're significantly strong. Even that move also gives White a big edge. So John M's game. Yeah, I think this Martin Merva is quite a good player, but John's played knight b7, which is quite a good move. And if you go knight f5, I guess I could even go knight c5, right? Knight c5, bishop c2. Oh, then bishop f5, yeah. Bishop f5, ef5. Maybe even e4 there. d4. No, hang on. Sorry. I'm forgetting that you pinned. Well, you could do that. Knight e4, bishop e4. There's even bishop e4. There's rook e8 there. Or queen e8 actually might be a very good move. So you could go knight c5, bishop c2, bishop f5, ef5, e4, d4, knight c4, bishop c2, queen e8, regaining your material. If bishop f6 as queen takes e4 check. And then if queen e2, you could go for an ending with queen e2, king e2, gf6. Or maybe even rook e8 first. Rook e8, queen e4, rook e4, king f1, gf6. You get a better version of that ending. It seems like you're actually better there, maybe. Like rook e1, you've got like rook e8, rook a e8, or rook f4. Rook f4, rook e7, rook f5, rook b7. Yeah, not so clear, maybe. Rook b5. Rook takes, c takes, king e2 seems to be better, but then still there, rook e8, rook e8, king d3, that's bishop f2. Black seems to be a pawn up in that variation. And if you go back to f1, then your rook is very passive. So probably not knight f5, probably white should just do something like castles, right? What's happening in Glenn Fleer game? Yeah, Glenn's still thinking. So interesting in this position. White played the move d4. And then black decided to release the tension. So the natural move by far is ED. You know, I would predict a draw in this game, to be honest. I think I would predict a draw. The guy is an IM. Even though he's rated 2192, he's an IM. He's a decent player. I don't think White's got any advantage, any serious advantage out of the opening. I think a draw is probably the most likely result, actually, even though Stewart's quite a big rating favourite. Maybe that's been disrespectful. I'm going to predict that Glenn will win. Nigel will draw. I think it's going to be a draw match, and I predicted that John would lose. Sorry, John. Oh dear. So Glenn's definitely going to win, we were predicting. So I'm going to go, and then Stuart I think will draw as well. ED4, but it seems like black's okay. Lots of reasonable moves here. Maybe not king h8 because of knight h4. Maybe d5. Maybe knight e7. Actually, yeah, it's still some mild pressure, right? Yeah, knight e7 instead. So black still would need to do the right things. And the Nigel game is very solid for both sides. Nigel in general is a very solid player. He draws a lot of games, I would say. But he had a good win yesterday, like a good grind in the end game. It looked like drawish, right? But he kept going and he won the match for us. I mean, so when you play senior stuff, there's obviously advantages to play senior stuff because you're playing people the same age as you. Most open tournaments you play now, they're dominated by kids, right? Your typical pairing is somebody born 2009, 2010, even younger than that, right? You're playing people that are 14, 15 years of age. They're often spending, if they're very strong players, that means they're probably spending several hours every day studying chess, right? They've got loads of energy. You know, you play seniors chess, you don't need to face that, and you don't have the rating deflation. You're playing people whose often ratings are inflated, if anything. So there are a lot of advantages to playing senior chess. However, I'm not sure whether I will play seniors chess when I do turn 50, assuming I even make it there. Of course, I might not even make it there. Who knows? But when I turn 50, which is worryingly close, I'm not sure if I will play in seniors or not. Amazingly, this is still Fury, and weirdly enough, it's a game of John Ems, and Queen C7 was played, and John Ems lost actually against John Shaw. No, he won. Sorry, he was black. So that game went like this. John Shaw is another guy who's very well prepared. So he's most closely associated with quality chess, which would also be Jacob Agard and Andrew Greet. They're based in Glasgow. So they set up a publishing company, which they had a lot of success with. Okay, this position black has only a pawn, so white should not really lose this. What was the ending evaluation of this game? White was clearly better. Apparently move like a4 was very strong. Very surprising that white should lose this game. Ah, but then he went crazy. He could just take here and go rook e4. I actually know John Shaw, and he is a bit of a time trouble addict, so my guess is he was in big time trouble at this point. But knight h6 does look a bit bonkers. It looks like it just looks wrong, right? Okay, miscalculated. He miscalculated check, but if you're short of time, why not just take there? Anyway, that was a win for John Ems. And he's playing against Martin Merva, who seems to be a good player. Any other games? So Johan Hartsjen from Iceland is a very well known player. Alberto David's been around for donkey's years. I played Alberto David in a French league game, I believe, years and years ago. I actually unleashed a novelty against him, which was quite a strong novelty. It was in a... To go back, it was actually in a... I was black in that game against Alberto David from Belgium. He's one of these people, when he used to play Capel, you know, you'd see him like a regular fixture, right? Decent player. I believe he represents Italy now, maybe. But I believe he was affiliated with Belgium as well. So I was black in this game. Just flip the board. And white played f4, so we had this variation. So yeah, so this critical, which I'm not sure he knew that well, was taking and going e5, which is supposed to be good for white. But he went queen d2. I think from memory I actually prepared this. I saw that he had some games with queen d2. And I went here. So this is a blunder now because the knight takes e4. You take with the knight, have queen h4, winning a pawn. And then after this, you go here, you're a lot better. Well, probably winning already, higher depth because you go d5. Very bad for white. And if you take here, this is a trap. You take here, and then if the bishop was to move, you take on f1 and you're a pawn. I've had this several times at Blitz. Even over the board at Blitz I've had it, and I managed to win. But in that game, Alberto David took here, and then he went here. Now I went g5 in that game with the idea if you take this was all known theory at the time. And black has got great compensation for the pawn because the bishop pair, very strong centre, strong control over centre, pawn square on e5. So obviously he's aware of all that, and he played this move g3. This is where I unleashed my novelty that I cooked up at home. One of the few ones I cooked up at home. I don't think I used an engine because we're going back quite a lot of years actually. There weren't really like engines where I basically found this novelty, you know, by myself. Let's see if there's any games of it. Yeah, this game, 2002. In fact, Black's got a good record, and Black played it again and won. So they followed my line, which is actually the top move of the engine, I think, as well, maybe. Yeah, 95. I think I found it on my own from memory. But obviously, yeah, these days you wouldn't need to find it on your own. You could find it. So the idea is if you take it, you actually get a very good position after this. You go check, and then, yeah, like anything is good for black, like bishop g7. So there's no way of... Basically, this whole line with queen d2 is not very good for white. Yeah, and something like this. So the game against Alberto David, how did that... Okay, can't find that game. Now, hang on. What was the game? Queen e3. Oh, this is the game, right? Yeah, maybe we agreed draw quite early on, from memory. It was a quick draw. He was stunned by my knight e5 novelty. But the point of this whole thing is a little bit moot, because the point is that queen d2 is not the best move anyway. So obviously, if I'd have played him again, let's say we were playing like some world championship match, and he suddenly knows queen d2 is no good, he's going to go for like the main line, which is this, which is good for white, right? So the theory goes something like this. Now it gets tricky, because after knight e4 you go queen b6. Now on several occasions I've had people blunder here, where they blundered stuff like this, where you go here and then you win immediately on the spot because you're hitting the knight. Obviously this would lose, and the point is that what they've missed is you can't just retreat with a knight because you lose the bishop. So, but after queen b6 there's two good moves here. You either go c3, or I believe taking is also, or bishop d3 is also the move. Yeah, not taking because it's check. Bishop d3 is also quite good, but the best move is c3, and white has a clear edge. So the whole line is a bit tough really. And he's saying the best way to play for black is to go... probably bishop f2 is not the only move, but queen f3 is... no, that's no good. Is that the only way to be better? g6. What happens if they go here? Nope. They go here. They could also go here. This is also better for white. But after g6, the whole idea is if you take, you get a horrible position, because just some weaknesses now. And if you go queen check, queen e2. So I don't know if I'd ever try this line again in a serious game, because basically, yeah, white's better here, and you know, there's not a lot of fun for black in this whole variation if white knows what they're doing, you know, which is why a lot of people, this whole Sicilian lines is why a lot of people play these kind of e4, e5 lines. But John Ems has always gone e4, e5 from memory, or very, yeah, he did play the Sicilian as well a bit, maybe the French as well, but he generally played e4, e5 as black, and been fairly well prepped in it as well. But now he's saying John's got a good position, so my whole prediction John would lose is a nonsense, right? Maybe I'm too in awe of this Martin Merver guy. And Nigel drew, yeah, so kind of like what I predicted, that he would draw. I think he senses that Glenn's doing well, which he is. He's found the best move, bishop b5, excellent move, and John is actually doing alright now. So we're actually on course. Stuart, I think it, now I've changed my mind. Now I'm thinking it's going to be either 2.5 half or 3-1. But I should go with my original prediction. I'll predict a draw match 2-all. Right? I think Glenn will win, but I think we'll slip up somewhere else. Anyway, I think that'll be enough for today. Again, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you're interested in coaching. I offer pretty reasonable rates for chess coaching if you want to improve chess, get better. And please subscribe and like the video. Thank you.